Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to take a minute to update everyone on what's going on with the compilation of the anthology that I was asked to write. I've had quite a few questions from the community about what exactly the anthology is going to include, who's included, why I'm doing it. I've gotten some really positive comments and also gotten some questions, and then I've gotten quite a few people, probably about 3 or 4 people that have asked if I'm doing this for monetary gain or, um, why there's a payment fee or anything like that. So I just wanted to take a moment to explain those things to folks. Not everyone knows me, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Michael David Battle. Just founded the Garden of Peace project about a month ago. It's been exactly a month and a week, so really excited about that. So just wanted to, like I said, talk a little bit about the book. A little over a year ago now, I believe it was in August of last year, I was asked by a publisher who is a friend of mine to write about my story of transition, talk about what it was like to transition to being a black man, what it was like for me and my family, and at school and at work and my friends, and especially with my partner. And for those of you that are not familiar with how I work or the things that I do, I don't believe in doing anything individually. Quite an independent person, but when it comes to representing the community, I want to make sure that I have community input. And so I pitched the idea of doing an anthology of folks from around the country and, quite frankly, around the world. I think that we all, the 6 degrees of separation, are not are very present, and so I think that we know folks from everywhere that are trans, and that trans folks are in every sector and facet of life. And so my idea was to compile an anthology that would take collections from folks from all over. I never wanted my story to just be the single story of what it was to be a trans man or a black trans man or a trans person in general. And so I pitched the idea to the publisher, and it was very welcome and accepted, and we started moving full steam ahead. With that, I decided to send it out to the community. And so, just to answer the few questions that I had about monetary gain or why there was a fee or anything like that, I'm doing this completely by myself. The Garden of Peace project is, my organization that I started along with a few other folks from the community, and I wanted to make sure that this was out into the community. I have never thought of charging a fee for monetary gain. If you go to the Garden of Peace Project website, you will see that we have a name change fund. And I thought that through this book, through collecting writings from the community, I could use the money to fund the name change fund. I never wanted to take anything from the community, and I was quite offended at the questions that I was getting, and then just had to recognize that our community, especially the trans community and the queer community overall, has been very scarred and has some baggage. And so, to answer that question, no. I'm not doing this for monetary gain. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm not doing it to make myself, this famous trans guy. And again, it wouldn't be a collection of writings from all over the country if I was just doing it for myself. And I'm more than willing to share how much money is collected from the anthology, and make sure that all of that money goes to the name change fund. And I want to talk a little bit about the name change fund as well, and why I decided to do the name change fund. I've been very fortunate and blessed in my life, and I'm very grateful and humbled that I've, for the most part, always had a job that I loved and was able to be pretty successful, going to undergrad and going to graduate school, that accepted me and actually empowered me a lot. And I went on to have a job where I also feel empowered, and being a trans voice is very important at my job. And they want the trans perspective, and I again make sure that I'm never speaking from a larger narrative, but I am instead speaking from my own experience and the experience of my friends and those around me. So with that being said, so I have two stories about why I started the Name Change Fund. Really three, but the first of those three stories is that I worked with a guy that was trans and was not out to other folks, but I knew that he was a trans guy from the community, and through work and because of my position, I saw his birth name and had a conversation with him about using his name. And when I said his name, I meant his chosen name, the name that he chose to go by on his paperwork. And as someone that was a supervisor, I was able to obviously match that his birth name, and there were no issues. But I saw the uncomfortability and the fear and the frustration and even really the sadness that went along with him having to present me with a license that had a birth name that he no longer associated, and a birth gender from which he no longer associated. And it was very uncomfortable for me, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't about me in that moment. In that moment, it was about him. And I felt really troubled. I never had to experience that at work. I transitioned on the job, but I always went by my middle name of David and just did not have that issue, so it was very painful. And I have another really good friend of mine who is a trans woman who cannot find work because her name has not been changed, and that's something that is painful to see. And as we go out into the community, and because of the work that I do with HIV prevention, speaking with trans women that are sex workers, and that's not to link trans women to sex work, but to say that it happens more often than I think we like to think. I think it happens a lot of times because of joblessness, because when you go to a job and you present an ID or you present a social security card or a birth certificate that has your birth sex on it, it has your birth name on it, and it doesn't match your current presentation, how difficult that is for folks that are not comfortable with the community. And that goes for the queer community too. There are LGBT folks that may not be quite as comfortable with the trans community yet, and to see a woman that now this person has not had surgery, or you're assuming they haven't had surgery, or you don't even know, you just know that their birth sex was male and now they're a woman, it may be uncomfortable for folks to address. And so to help alleviate that, the Garden of Peace Project created the Name Change Fund. To fund the Name Change Fund, we wanted to do a suggested donation. So the Hear Our Voices, which is the tentative name of the book, the anthology, Hear Our Voices, is just a suggested donation. The suggested donation is $5. If you have an additional entry, the suggested donation is $2.50. If you go to any other anthology or writing contest, you will easily see that those contests require much more money than the money that we have stated as a suggested donation, as opposed to a writing contest that is not queer, that is not geared towards the trans or queer community, is not geared towards the POC community, and those contests require much more money. As I look at other writing contests, that was one thing that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to charge an arm and a leg, didn't want to charge $15, or even some contests that I've seen for $100 or $150. We didn't want to do that. We recognize that we're working with the queer community, that we're gearing the POC community, and that those communities are disenfranchised and marginalized and in many cases oppressed. And so we did a suggested donation. The deadline is December 13th. It has been extended. We would like to have as many folks as possible. And despite the fact that this is a trans-geared and POC, persons of color geared writing contest, we would like to have folks that are white, that are black, that are brown, and from all spectrums. And from the trans community, if you look at the description of the Hear Our Voices contest, really want folks from all facets of the trans community. And so that includes femme queens, that includes masculine females, that includes butch queens, that includes gender queer and gender nonconforming, and all of those in between, transgender and transsexual, and drag kings and drag queens. This is not something that we wanted to limit to just those that are post-op or that are on hormones, because we all go through things and we're all a part of the trans spectrum. And so this is really a trans spectrum anthology. Again, the deadline has been extended to December 13th, and on December 13th we will host a trans social mixer downtown Pittsburgh. Tentatively, it will be at the Project Silk building, which will be on Liberty Avenue, but that will be, it'll be on Penn Avenue, but that will be that location will be explained later. We're going to be working out the kinks of that location later this week. Early next week. So if there's any questions, you all can always feel free to contact me. michaeldavid.battle@gardenofpeaceproject.org. Please visit the website. That's www.gardenofpeaceproject.org, and just check out everything that we're doing. We have a lot of good stuff going on, and we're really just trying to make sure that we're out in the community, that we're building the community, we're empowering individuals, and that we're restoring relationships through outreach. Thank you.